Welcome to the NRT Now podcast, giving you the latest in Christian music news, topics, and artist interviews directly from the largest Christian music site online, newreleasetoday.com. Now, here's your host, Jake.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to episode 39. Hey, we appreciate that you're hanging out with us for a while. If you're new, please make sure that you're subscribed to our podcast. If you're not new, welcome back. And I guess if you're new, welcome too. I should have said that a second ago. So our guest for this episode is Leeland Mooring of the band strangely named Leeland. I'm not sure where they got that band name from. I'll ask him later. No, he won a We Love Award back in February for his album, Better Word. And as I'm introducing that here at the beginning of the conversation that we'll hear in just a few minutes, I say that it's been what seems like a lifetime ago, and instantly his brain goes back years. And so you give him a little bit of grief that it was only February, a few months ago. But it just really hit me as I was going back through this, just how crazy this season has been and how disorienting it's been. I mean, February seems like it's a whole lifetime ago when we got to go to concerts and gather together, and there wasn't like this common hysteria that was going on. And I don't know, it just gave it a little bit more perspective for me, just how disorienting this can be. And I just want to encourage you guys to just keep your eyes on God, to keep your eyes on Jesus and how he's moving through the season in you, in the church, and everywhere around us. Just keep anchored into what God is doing and who he is. And the Bible said his word is a light unto my path. And man, what better thing for us right now is to have a light unto our path. We know that God is with us, and just to have that lighting our path is just an incredible sense of peace for this crazy, crazy season. So that's my word of encouragement. And with that, let's head on over to the conversation with Leeland. So we are here with a We Love award-winning artist, Leeland. Hey, thanks for joining us.
What's up, dude? Good seeing you.
He didn't realize I was going to say that, so I threw him for a little bit of a curveball here.
It's awesome.
That seems like a lifetime ago by now.
Yes. We Love awards. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was like early 2000s, right? Something like that.
Man, it was only February.
Really?
You already forgot. So the We Love Award means so much to Leeland that he forgot it was February already.
You said it must have seemed like a lifetime ago. No, I guess it did. Well, with all the quarantine stuff now, it's been like it does seem like a lifetime ago when we were normal human beings, right?
Yeah, it was. And so when we first started getting this arranged, they told me that you were in Dallas. So I'm like, sweet. Yeah. The first in-person interview that we've had since February. I'm like getting all excited, like cool, like maybe we could get the office ready, we could do some Waymaker, we can all that. And then they told me you're back in Houston, and
that must have been a very non-Texan person that told you I lived in Dallas. Yeah. Because people who aren't from Texas, they just think that people are either from Dallas or Houston, and it's like, hey, there's more in Texas than just Dallas and Houston. But But yeah, even though I actually do tell people I live in Houston, because not a lot of people know about Baytown, where I actually live, which is just east of Houston. But yeah, it looked for like a short period though. A couple of years ago, we almost moved to Dallas, so it was a little bit prophetic, I guess, when she was mentioning that. So
well, wishful thinking on my part, I guess.
Yeah, so good.
We were just talking a minute ago about obscure small Texas town references,
Yes.
Baytown is actually somewhere that I know, and we've been in our, it was our honeymoon many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
Early Christian concert with old K-Love artists like John David Webster, Jaden Lovick, Charity Vaughn, a few of those that we went down to see. And I remember we stayed on this, I think it was like a La Quinta or something like that. This old
La Quinta, yeah. It's off of Garth Road. Yeah. I know exactly what that is. It's still there. That's awesome. That's so good, man. You're part of a special elite that's been to Baytown.
Yes.
So you've got to see where we make everyone's gas. All of America's gas comes from Baytown, pretty much. It's like we have a really large Exxon chemical plant here, but it's a great town, man. It's where my whole family's from here. So my mom and dad pretty much grew up here. I was born and raised mostly here, and then my wife's family is all from here. So, but it's great. It's like a middle class, lower middle class, like just hardworking people, man. It's awesome. So it's good.
We definitely enjoyed it, and it was just so funny. They didn't have a will call for that show. Like, they were just completely blown away that there's people from Wyoming is where we're living at the time. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's kind of suspicious. It's like, why are you in Baytown right now? Like, you should be somewhere else other than here right now.
Like, this isn't a big concert production. Like, what?
It
was kind of funny, man. The reaction. They're like a mix between excited and confused, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably treated you like a UFO. They were like, guys, we've got someone from Wyoming here in Baytown. This is crazy. They probably brought all their friends over. That's so good.
I didn't think about it that way, but now that you say that, it's quite possible.
That's awesome. So good, man.
So I guess I remember Leeland from the long hair, emo hair days.
Yes.
So to be honest, for me, like, I remember that. And then all of a sudden we have Waymaker and this Better Word album. Like, it just kind of, if I'm honest, like, I kind of missed the middle of that, but all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's quite the difference there, or quite the time span in that whole thing.
Yeah. Yep. We were still making music all those years. So a lot of people actually said similar things throughout that time. I guess it does seem like we fell off the map, but we were on actually Sony Provident, Christian record label out of Nashville. They were the label that signed us in 2000, and man, this would have been like 2005. And we started working on Sound and Melodies, our first album. And I was 16 when we started. I was a little baby,
Wow.
And all the other guys in the band were a little bit older, but most of us were under 21. And we started actually here in Baytown. So my parents are actually pastors of a church. They're still pastors. The church is called Celebration of Life, and it's actually on the old side of town. And so growing up, my parents were like music pastors, and we started this church. And, when your family starts a church, like, all of your kids are immediately unpaid staff. You're just your volunteer staff. So we started having our youth group meetings, and my brother, he was 18, but he was like 18 going on 30. Like, he's always been sort of an old soul, like he never got along with his age group. So mom was just like, Jack, like, I think you could be a great youth pastor. And he really loves preaching, loves teaching. So he dove into it right away. And I was 14 and was starting to pick up the acoustic guitar a little bit, and our whole family sings. So my brother sings, moms and dad are musicians and singers. They were worship leaders before. So we grew up around music. It's always really natural for our family. And so started leading worship in our youth group. And at first it was like me and my brother and all my cousins. And that was kind of it. Because we 2 years prior to that, we before we came home and started this church in our house, for about the 2 years before that, when I was 11 or 12, for those 2 years, we were actually traveling on the road with my parents, and we were like a family trio. And we would, like, me, my brother, and my mom would sing, and then my dad would play piano, and we had like a mini disc player. You remember when mini discs were around for like 6 months, and they were like the new thing. They're super Star Wars. So we had one of those. And
like the Dreamcast of audio players.
Yes.
Like, you've heard of it. I think you've seen one at one point in time, but never actually touched one.
That's exactly right. It's so true. So that was our music, and then Dad would play piano, and so we did that for 2 years. It was pretty much a 2-year road trip almost in our car, and we traveled behind these two traveling like revivalist, sort of old school tent revival preachers. They're still a big part of my life today. They're like, I call them my spiritual granddads, because they're about the age of like what my grandpa would be. But I've got like two spiritual grandpas and grandmas. They're amazing. So we just went on the road, and that was a really life-changing time for us on the road. Like, it was either hilarious, like, because you're traveling nonstop, so you're either meeting really weird people and having great stories, or you are like having amazing God moments and you have a bunch of God stories too. And so it was amazing, pretty wild 2 years. And then we came home off of the road, and I was 14 when we got back home, and my parents are praying, and for about a week they're like, we're gonna pray and pursue God about the future of our family. Like, what are we supposed to do? And Dad was going to go work at the chemical plant here in town at Exxon. It's like the big plant everybody works at. It's a good job. It's a great job. And so he had friends there. So he was thinking about doing that. And then they prayed, and God just said, start a church in your house. And so and it was crazy because God told my dad that. And my dad is like a really quiet. I've always pictured my dad being quiet, sitting behind a piano. He's unbelievably talented, like just ridiculous. But he's very like unassuming. You wouldn't know that he doesn't really he's not some showboat. So thinking of my dad preaching was a big deal. I was like, I could not imagine him get in front of people, and so the fact that God spoke to him, we were like, okay, this must be God. Like, this is real. So we started our church in our house. Our youth group was made up of all of our cousins because they were normal. They weren't homeschooled. They were going to public school. And so we were like, listen, we're weird and we're homeschooled and we don't know anybody. So we need you guys to go be the evangelist and bring your friends to our youth group. So that's how the band started. We were just our youth band, and we played every Thursday night. We wanted to be different. We didn't want to have our youth group on Wednesday nights. So we were rebels, and we had it on Thursday.
How dare you?
And so amazing. And our youth group name was called Crossfire. Isn't that the worst thing ever? It's just awesome.
I was gonna say, like, I don't necessarily say that's weird or it's bad, but definitely a different route.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. But so that was our youth group, but it was amazing, man. Like, we just started meeting in our house, and then eventually our youth group got bigger than our house, and we had to find little pavilions and little places around town, like park buildings where we could rent and use them, and just cold metal chairs and speakers on sticks, nothing cool, and really loud drums. Like, it was so just ear bleedingly loud, our music at the youth group service. But it was awesome, and that's kind of like how the band, the early beginnings of the band started. My brother was playing piano and singing. We were writing a lot of songs together. Our drummer, Mike, his parents were starting a church on the other side of town. So we would help him out with their youth group on Tuesdays, and then he would come over to our youth group on Thursdays and play drums.
Does anybody follow the rules in Baytown?
Well, what was hilarious is that we thought there was going to be on Wednesday. Like, no, we didn't want to do Wednesday either. We're like, what the heck? Like, what is going on? Baytown, we're a bunch of rebels, man. So that's kind of how it all started, man. We just started writing songs, and me and my brother started writing more together and co-writing a lot. And we started playing at other youth groups around Baytown and then around Houston. And after about a few years of that, when I was about 15, 16, God opened a door in Nashville. I went to this talent showcase when I was like 14 with my mom. So I kept bugging my mom. I was like 14. This is when we had just first moved back, and I had started writing songs here and there. And I didn't even know what I was talking about, but I kept asking. I was like, Mom, do you know any music producers? And I didn't even know what a producer was. I didn't even know what that meant, but I just heard that term and it sounded important. So I was like, Mom, you got to know any producers? And so a friend of ours, he was playing bass for you might know this band. They were Houston based, but they did pretty well for themselves. They're early Christian rock kind of worship band. They were called Among Thorns. And anyways, they did pretty good. They had some great songs, and their bass player, his name is David. He's pretty much like a cousin to me. Like, we really grew up together. He's older than I am, and he was playing bass with them at the time, traveling around in a tour bus. And so he was really the only person we knew that was like doing anything in like a music industry kind of level. And so my mom calls him, and he was like, well, I've heard about this talent showcase that they're having in Nashville called Embassy Music. And he was like, he should just, it's at the Grand Ole Opry Hotel. And, and he said, you just go there, and it's like a conference, and you learn about songwriting and being an independent artist and all that stuff, and publishing, and, stuff that we didn't know anything about that sounded really interesting. So we didn't have any money at the time. My aunt, who was like doing pretty well for herself in business, she just paid for the trip. She was like, I'm going to pay for y'all's gas money and hotel money. And so my mom drove, and I was like, because I was 14, I couldn't drive. And so we drove to Nashville, and they had like a songwriter division and like a artist division, and entered in both of those. And it really wasn't really necessarily about the competition. I was bummed that I didn't win, but it was really about just meeting people. We met some amazing people, particularly one guy's name was Darwin Moody, and he's the guy who started the event. And he just, fell in love with us and our story, and that the fact that we were simple country people from Baytown. I don't know, and sweet guys, amazing guy. So he just really said, I want to help Leeland. I feel like he could be a great songwriter. And so a year later, I went to a songwriting event of his at the same hotel, but it was like smaller. And then we met this guy there named Kent Coley. Kent was the industry guy in the room, because we kept hearing there's going to be a music industry guy that's going to come critique our songs. Kent, told us later, he pulled me aside, and he was like, man, he said, I've heard better singers. I've heard better guitar players, better performers. And I was like, well, thanks. Yeah. And he's like,
where's this going?
But yeah, where's this going? and he said, but I really feel like I'm supposed to help you guys. I don't know why. Like, I feel God telling me to help you. And he said, but here's the deal. He's like, I don't have a job right now. And I was like, what? You're supposed to be the industry guy, And he was like, but he started laughing. He was like, yeah. He said, I'm really doing this as a favor to Darwin. He's like, I was at Forefront Records, and I got let go. I'm not there anymore. But as soon as I get a job, I would love to help you. So we go home with that, and we're encouraged, but we're like, God does some great things, but we don't know like if that guy's going to call us back. And so we go home and we just dive into youth group again, and the youth group continues to grow. We start writing more songs, and right at about like 4 or 5 months later, he calls me back from a number and said, hey, this is Kent. He said, I got a job at a Christian publishing company called EMI CMG. It's here in Brentwood and here in Nashville, and our job is to record labels sign artists, but we sign songwriters, and we look for songwriters. And I would love to bring you up, and you could play some songs for my boss. And I was like, well, just play in my demo. And the demo I have was like this. It was like from when I was 11. So I sound like Michael Jackson. It's the worst. He's like, I'm not playing your Michael Jackson demo. It sounds awful. He said, you need to come up here and sing your songs in person for him. And so it was awesome, man. And that's kind of what started the journey for us into, like, I guess, the music industry from Baytown. And so that started this journey of about a year of just songwriting with a lot of other writers in Nashville. And that they were nice enough to write with me. They didn't have to. I was like a 15-year-old, emo redheaded kid with like long hair. And they're all like seasoned songwriters. They did not have to do that, but it was so cool. I'm so thankful. Like, I'm 30, just turned 32. And I'm like so blown away that they did that. I'm like, man, I'm so thankful, because I learned a lot that year, like just taking notes on how they would write the song, and I was just like, man, how did they get there lyrically? And about a year later, I did a demo of a song called Beautiful Lord, and that demo made its way to Provident, and they were like, hey, we'd love to sign you as an artist. And I said, I can't do this thing by myself. I'm super codependent, and I have a whole band at home, and they're like basically my family. Like, if we're gonna do anything, I'd love for you to hear us play together at least. So they flew to Baytown, bro. They came to Baytown. It's amazing. Like, it was like 4 A&R people from Provident, and they flew down to Baytown. My mom picked them up from the airport. She's so awesome, and she just had them laughing the whole way from Houston. They came in at night, and so they thought all the chemical plants was like a sky, was like a city, because it looks like all these lights, and if you're kind of like not looking and paying attention, so they thought they were still in Houston in the city, and they get out the next day and they're like, where are we? And so we played this little show for them, and it was at we had one kind of venue that we would play at for fun on Saturday nights. It was called Faith Harbor, and it was like a Christian coffee shop music venue thing with a really low ceilings, but just real simple. But that's where all of our friends would come, and we would try out new songs on people there. So we played for them. I think it was terrible. I think I have a video of it somewhere. It was awful, but somehow God just gave us favor with them, and that's how the relationship started there. And we kept making albums from 2006 to 2000 and this would have been 2013 was when we left Provident. We did 4 albums with them, and it was an awesome and incredible time with them. They were so good to us. They're still making amazing music. You know, one of my buddies, Torrin Wells, is on Sony Provident,
I think I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So they're still doing amazing stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of like the beginnings of the story in a nutshell. Sorry to sort of throw up on you there, but that's kind of it. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. I mean, what a crazy ride to go on. I remember when I was 15, that was nowhere in the car. Like, I think I barely got my first guitar. Yeah, I would have been right about then. I probably barely got my first guitar, electric, and, well, let's just not talk about the quality there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
But I think
good.
I knew 3 chords.
Yeah.
But,
oh, dude, same here. There was for a long while. It was like three chords in the truth for me. Just as long as I had a capo, I was fine.
yeah, to do that at such a young age, I don't think I could have handled it. You know, just the kid that I was at that time. I mean, I knew a few. Probably shouldn't say this on a Christian podcast. Like 3 Doors Down and some of those. Some of the songs that I was listening to. That I could plunk through some of that, but I mean,
sure.
To have that at that age, like that's an incredible experience.
Well, we had amazing parents, and we have amazing parents, and they were super involved in our life as kids. And I remember me and Jack, my older brother, so we wrote a lot together. And during that time when I was writing in Nashville, they flew both of us up there to do some songwriting. And so we came back, and we just thought we were rock stars. We just flew on a plane to Nashville, Tennessee to write songs. So we were the Beatles, we were the Beatles. And so we come back and we get in the car, and Mom didn't come on this trip with us. So she wants to know every single detail, and we're flying in on a Thursday, and we're going to have youth service that night. And so we get in the car. We're both just exhausted from our travel, because that's what rock stars, we get tired easy. So we sit in the back, and we're being emo, and I've got my hair, covering one eye, and Jack's in the back, and Mom starts asking us questions, and mothers want to know. They don't just want to know what you did. They don't want a bullet point. They want like a detailed, what was the look on their face when you said that? What were the exact words they said to you? Like, they want every play-by-play, the whole thing. And so we were just giving short answers, and we just had kind of a really bad attitude, being really prideful. And then Mom, she says, no. And she snaps at both of us like this. And we like snap out of it. She said, look at me. And we looked at her, and she said, you are 0 without Jesus. She said, repeat it after me. I am. And I was like, I am. She said, 0 without Jesus. And so then she said, now both of you repent right now, get your heart right, because you got to minister tonight, youth group. and so that was like our upbringing, man. So Mom brought the hammer, and Dad is the quiet leader in our family. And so whenever Dad gets mad at you, your world shatters, but Mom puts the fear of God in you too. So that was our upbringing. And early on the road, when we were traveling and touring, it was really cool. Like our first tour we did on the road when I was 16, we got to go out on the road with Casting Crowns. And was, it was awesome. They were so much fun to be around. Like to this day, they're still some of my favorite people. They were so nice. Like they are probably they are the funniest and nicest people to be around.
The one time that I got to meet Mark back in Wyoming, see, they're from Georgia. So
yeah,
they don't realize what Wyoming weather was in October. Yeah. Like, it gets cold places in October.
It does.
Not in Texas, not in Georgia, but other places.
Other places, normal places.
So they had to go to the mall and get coats for everybody. And so my buddy was the runner for that show.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sitting there chatting with him. I don't know why I was at the mall for lunch. It was weird.
Yes. Classic.
Small town Wyoming, I guess. That they had options. Something like that. So he's awesome. Like, he kept telling me, hey, do you want to meet Mark? I'm like, what is your obsession with Mark, dude? Like, what is it? And so he's like, it's Mark from Casting Crowns. And he was just sitting there just chill as whatever, looking at coats and all that.
Yeah.
So, meet Mark, but like you'd never know that he was from the show. Like just nothing about
No.
that demeanor
No.
ever
Yeah,
showed that.
that's so true. It's so true about them. They were just and they still are just the kindest people. Yeah, so they were so nice. But during that tour, my dad drove our bus and my mom was like our road manager. So it was amazing because I was 15, my brother was 18. My cousin Jake was playing bass with us in the band and he was like 16. Or no, I was 16, he was 17, my brother was 19, and then our drummer was like 20. So we were all a bunch of kids. And so we needed a mom and dad out there with us on the road, to make sure we weren't being crazy. So they took like kind of like a long sabbatical from the church. That it was pretty much a year, almost a year. That tour, it was like 9 months. It was like 3 months on the road, 3 month break, and then 3 months on the road. So actually, it was like 6 months, I guess, on the road. But yeah, it was so much fun. A lot of great memories on that tour. I remember a lot from that tour because it was just a special moment.
The downer to that being homeschooled is school went with you.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. School went with us. That's true. It's awesome, man.
My kid is homeschooled. We've decided to homeschool her, and just fantastic experience. But the one thing that is kind of a blessing and a curse for her is if we go on a road trip, her DVDs go with her, and she's doing school on the road. And
Yes.
some days she's okay with that. Some days she's not. She can't get away from it.
Yeah. That's true. I felt like with us being homeschool kids, there were definitely some negatives for sure. We did like the whole pace thing where you had books, and trying to stay on top of it. But the cool thing is that you do have the flexibility to get to travel and do some fun stuff. And so we went on some pretty epic field trips.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward. We'll jump around your timeline here.
Yeah.
Let's confuse people.
There we go.
So, now we're 2019, the, We Love award-winning album, Better Word. Waymaker, that seems like somebody started a trend in Waymaker. Now that Leeland did it, now we have 8,000 versions of Waymaker.
That's awesome.
Where did that come from? Like I said, it's an awesome song.
Yeah.
And it just obviously it sparked a trend in there. But it was written by Sinach. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yep. Sinach. Yeah.
Sinach. Sorry.
Sinach or Sinach. I guess it depends on where you're from in the States. That's awesome.
So where did you pick that up from, and what kind of started that?
It's a really cool story. So we signed with Integrity. We started working with them in 2018, and we really started praying into what we're going to do. And up until this point, we had never done a live worship album. We'd always talked about doing one. And in 2014, we were independent during that time, so we did like a small kind of in the house acoustic sort of live thing with like 50 people in a room. So it wasn't a big production, but it was amazing and it sounded decent. But it was great moments were in there. And so ever since that, we were like, man, we would love to do a little bit bigger scale night with a little more intention put into it. And so we've been talking about that for like 4 or 5 years at that point. We knew right away that we wanted to do a live worship album. We just didn't know necessarily where. So we were writing some songs, we were working on things, and a friend of mine introduced me to CFNI, Christ for the Nations Institute there in Dallas. I had been attending, kind of going there from time to time for about a year teaching. And the one thing I loved about CFNI was there in the chapel room, the main auditorium where the services happen, was just the diversity in the room and the passion in worship. Like the people are not afraid to be loud, to sing, to pray. And these students are from literally all over the world. And so I remember being in one particular CFNI just morning prayer thing. That was when I was there teaching, and I just kind of attended the morning prayer. They said, hey, we want you in here to go ahead and for the next 30 seconds to pray in your indigenous language. Like just if English first language, great. But if you have another first language, pray in that language. Of course, I'm praying in English. I got my eyes closed. And all of a sudden, I just had to open my eyes and stop praying because I was so overwhelmed. The person in front of me was praying like in Vietnamese. Somebody behind me was praying in Korean. The person next to me was praying in Portuguese. And I recognized that because we've been to Brazil. And then somebody next to me was praying in Spanish. And it was like this epic experience of like it was like being in heaven. The Bible says that that's one thing about heaven that we can emulate here is Jesus says that every tribe, every nation, every tongue will be there in heaven represented, because that brings glory and honor to God, our cultures and our nations. And yeah, so it was really cool. So it was this special moment, and I was like, man, if we ever did a live album, I would really love to do it here. So we started talking with them, and they made it happen. CFNI's team, they gave us a massive team of volunteers to help make the thing possible, which was really cool. So they have like a lot of ownership in it and being a part of it. So most of the people in the room were actually CFNI students, and then the rest of them were just friends of friends that heard about it and came. And of course, probably half the room was our family, because it's just like all of our band family and all the guys and friends and cousins, everybody came. So it was a really special night. It was something we've been wanting to do for a long time. And it was the right timing. It was a special time. And the song Waymaker, we had been listening to that song at this point for about a year. We heard that song in early 2018 on Facebook, and it was a version Sinach did on Facebook at one of her services. I think it might have been either in London or it was in Africa, because her music has gone all over Africa, obviously, but it's gone all over Europe as well. Like it's just for some reason that song wasn't really mainstream here yet. And so I heard the song, immediately fell in love with it. My mom played it for me on Facebook, and so we just started playing it at our church here. But then we started playing it with our band out on the road, and there was a long kind of like run of dates that we did in the UK. We were like in all sorts of churches on that trip. We were like in Methodist churches and like liturgical churches, and then in like charismatic churches. But it didn't matter. Wherever we went, we would sing this song Waymaker, and people grabbed onto it like immediately. So we were like, this is a special song. We've got to do it. Originally, she was supposed to be on the album, and she was actually going to sing it with us. But then last minute, there was like some travel stuff and visa stuff, and she couldn't make it. And I was like so bummed, but we're like, we've still got to do this song. But yeah, it's been really awesome getting to see the response from it, and getting to see a song from a worship leader from Africa make it here in the States on in the top in CCLI. It's just a song that's being sung all over the country now, and I think that's very special, because a lot of the songs we sing here, most of them are written either in Australia or in England or in the States. Yep. And so it's cool to hear this song from Africa coming here. So
that's crazy. And it is everywhere right now. Yeah, all the churches are singing it. So I got to ask, what is your favorite non-Leeland Waymaker cover?
That is awesome.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
Oh man, that's really tough. Okay, so I would probably say my favorite would probably have to be, oh man, this is tough. Well, I guess just because the way it gripped me the very first time I heard it. Well, I'll do two. One is Stephanie Gretzinger and Jeremy Riddle's version they did I think it's at a Jesus Image conference. Or yeah, I think it's Jesus Image conference. If you type in YouTube, Stephanie, and just because I love them, they're amazing, and it's like anointed, and it's awesome. Also, Jeremy did a version on his new live album, which is really special because he had this couple of epic like Brazilian worship leaders lead it with him, and it's like awesome. But the one that really gripped me for the first time was it's a version that also, other than Sinach's version, that really gripped me a lot, was the Pentecostals of Alexandria. And they are a church in Alexandria, Louisiana. And they're a United Pentecostal church. So, everybody's in suits and dressed really nice. But it's amazing. They have a big choir. I think the choir is, gosh, it looked like it's over 60, maybe 100 people. And the band is really big old band. And the drummer is a girl drummer. And she's like epic. Like she's so good. But they just sound amazing. And it's anointed. You can really tell like the whole room. It's a pretty big Pentecostal church in Louisiana. But you can just, it was so cool looking the camera shots of seeing the whole room like really in it. It's like they're doing something when they're singing. They're not just singing. You know what I mean? Like they're engaging in something that seems really corporate. So that was a really special video that's stuck with me.
That's so cool. And then, of course, you go to the other side where we have the worst chicken.
Yes. Worst chicken is awesome. Worst chicken has changed my life. It's the best thing ever.
So, which is hilarious. One of our social media gals, Grace, she actually did an interview with the worst chicken.
No.
She did. Oh, It's the funniest thing ever.
It is so good. I love that the worship leader problems. I love that there's like this subculture of humor about it because we have to laugh. Like
Oh, yeah.
there is real funny things that happen in church and the context of leading worship that are just we have to make fun of ourselves
Oh, yeah.
or else we're just gonna cry about these moments. Like
I know. Well, and one of the lessons as I played through worship teams and all that kind of stuff that I personally have the hardest time with of don't worry about it. Like the
yeah.
perfection of it, like that's
Oh,
not what we're here for. We're not here for the
exactly, man.
perfection.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, I think sometimes we can get into a performance mentality in worship and forget that so much of what happens in a room actually has very little to do with you, the worship leader, or with even with how excellent you sound. I'll put a caveat in here in the sense that we should be good stewards of the gifting God's given us. We should practice. We need to rehearse. We need to know our stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and really, the main reason you want to rehearse, and somebody gave this answer, and it just made so much sense. The main reason you want to practice is so that literally you can just not even think about it. You can actually unengage from your instrument and from the thing you're playing, and really think about what you're singing. One thing that I've noticed over the years is that there's something that happens in a room in a room of full of people that has nothing to do with me at all.
Yep.
And what that means is that some nights it's the same bands, the same song will play in a maybe 3 4 nights at 3 different churches. And one it's like, maybe they're used to having people in a ton, and it's just I guess maybe it's more of a people feel like it's more of a concert or something, and it's just it's good, but it's like, then the
Yeah.
next night you'll go somewhere else and you don't feel like your heart hasn't necessarily changed with God. It just feels like heaven touches earth that next night. And for some reason, it's like people almost it's like they don't care that you're even there. And I think that that's something really powerful. It's the metaphysical part really of art and music and worship, which is it's not just a group of people singing. And when your band's playing, it's not just a band playing a song, and it's not just your voice singing, it's souls worshiping God. When I pass away, people aren't going to hopefully, walk
Yeah.
up to my casket and try to have the dialogue like I'm still alive. Like something about me went to be with God, and something about my uniqueness is there. So when we sing, when we play, whether we're in church, on the front row or we're in the band, what's happening is it's not just your voice singing, but it's your soul engaging with God. There's something spiritual and supernatural happening. When you get a whole group of people that are there for just one purpose, and that's just to encounter Jesus. And yeah, they might love the song, they might like the band, whatever, but they're there really ultimately to chase it down to the bottom of the barrel. They're there to really touch the presence of God and be changed. There's some kind of hunger there or thirst for God. You can definitely tell the difference. And that encourages me because in a lot of ways, it takes the pressure off. I think sometimes it puts such pressure. And I think what you're talking about too, that performance mentality also can come from, it either comes from pride, like where you actually are starting to think that you have something to do with it, or it comes from this insecurity and this pressure of comparison, which is kind of scary with social media. It's an amazing tool, but I think the one downside is that you can pretty quickly fall into comparing yourself with some of your favorite artists and church
Yeah.
movements, and pastors are dealing with the same problem, and you just start thinking, well, they're doing this, maybe we should do this. And I think that prayer and those moments where heaven touches earth, it should encourage us as leaders that the fight we have to continue to fight is not necessarily perfection. The fight that we need to fight is to keep the motive pure. And if you can keep the motive pure, just keep it honest and pure before the Lord, and just keeping that thing laid out before God, then He can always entrust us with something.
And I think you're exactly right about stewarding the gift. Not only you want to do the best that you can, you want to give the best that you have, but the other way I've heard it is just not distracting. So when you
Yes.
have in a church, when you have bad colors in the lights,
Yeah.
things are just wonky. You're kind of unrehearsed, not cohesive, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's more of a distraction, and some people pick up on it, some people don't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's it kind of distracts from the moment of worship and what you're saying
Sure.
about connecting with God.
Yeah.
And it's not about
Sure.
the
It
perfection.
can. Yes, exactly. I think if that's the motive and that's the driver, I think it can be something that we can carry with a genuine heart. I think the thing we have to kind of watch and be careful, and this is as worship leaders or production team to everybody that's involved in what's happening on Sunday, is it's kind of a fine line between a spirit of excellence and that spirit of like performance. It's really tough to find when that crosses over. So I think as long as you're continually asking the question with the Lord and you're continually kind of bringing yourself before God like that and not beating yourself up and but just bringing your heart before the Lord every single time that you're in a position to serve in that way, then you're in a good place. I think it's when we're not asking that question of ourselves a lot that it gets scary. And 2-3 years down the road, you're trying to put on a TV show like performance for people, and it's like it just feels like a bunch of automatons up there, trying
Yeah.
to, But I'll give you an example. There's definitely been times where I have wept like a baby in the presence of God, watching something or listening to something that was not polished and clearly was not, I guess, even maybe even the words that we would use, excellent here in America in terms of like the good way that we use that word in terms of making sure that the lighting looks good and that the sound sounds great and it's not a distraction. There was a video the other day I watched of worship in this, and it was in another country, and this young boy is leading worship, probably 11, 12 years old, and he starts singing. I'm telling you, within like 5 minutes of watching this video, I was weeping like a baby. Just the presence of God. And, their lighting wasn't great. Their PA wasn't great. The band sounded good. They were doing great. And the boy had a good voice. None of that mattered in that moment. Something else was happening. There was something supernatural and metaphysical that was happening when they were worshiping God that was ministering to me. It wasn't the excellence, it was something else. That's the part that I think I have to continually remind myself of that. As a musician who loves music, and as a songwriter who loves writing, and a singer who loves to sing, I've got to remind myself there's a lot of mystery to this, and we have to hold it with really humble and light hands, and keep it before the Lord.
Like you were saying, when you have the worship fails or the worst chickens or all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of brings that humanity back to worship leading and bringing that back down to earth of this is what
Yes.
we're here
Yes.
for. Although
Yes. Yes.
one of my favorite ones is the Oceans, the guy on Oceans that goes crazy on the drums. Like
Oh
I
yes.
think he has the bandana and all that. Like he's just
Yeah.
getting to it. The poor
He's
gal.
getting to it. Yeah. I think too, like, one thing that kind of shows you when I watch a video like that is that it's hilarious, but I think it's like it's almost like an exaggerated version of what happens a lot on Sunday morning at a lot of churches in maybe a little more subtle way,
Yeah.
which is there definitely is an artistic calling that people can carry that is different than like a worship leading calling. First of all, I think one of the scarier things that we did as leaders was turning the word worship into a genre of music. It sort of can imply, without saying it,
Yeah.
that if it's not a specific style of song, then it's not worship to God. Obviously we know worship isn't even a song. It's the posture of our heart to God and surrender to him. And so you could, be cooking a meal for your kids and you're worshiping God if you're doing it from a heart of love. And so there is a specific artistic calling that some people carry. And I think sometimes if you don't know that about yourself and you're a believer and you love music, you'll dive into the worship team, and you probably should. If you
Yeah.
love Jesus and you play music and they need help on the team, you should offer yourself up, and serve. But if you're not pursuing that artistic calling on your life that God's given you, if that's what you have, then sometimes you try to unleash all of your creativity and your artistry in a 25-minute set on Sunday morning with a really diverse group of people that really aren't there for an artistic show. They're there to encounter the Lord. And so you get frustrated creatively and you're trying to put all that in your worship set. And I see that a lot actually more than anything. So one of the things I've been trying to encourage people, because I feel like I have both of my life, an artistic calling and a love for the local church. And so I've been trying to encourage others that have that, saying, hey, look, it's okay to pursue the artistic calling in your life. And you'll actually find that when you do that, that there's a lot of health that comes to the side of you that loves to lead worship in your church and be a part of something corporate. That'll actually start feeling a lot more healthy when you have an outlet for the storytelling side of you.
So cool. Such a good word. A better word.
Awesome. Yeah.
Sorry. I had to.
So good.
That went downhill real fast.
That's so great.
So we're on our first cup of coffee. This is a rare morning conversation here. So
yes.
I'm on my first cup of coffee. So the dad jokes
Same
are
here,
flowing
dude.
hard.
Same here, dude. Same here.
Oh, wow.
That's so awesome. So awesome. How many kids do you guys have?
So we have 2 kids.
2 kids.
We have a 9-year-old and a 5-month-old. Our
Wow.
surprise baby.
Come on. Come on.
So we'll head towards this phase. What's the life in between the long-haired emo phase and clean-cut Leeland? Can we call those the phases? Can we identify it that way?
Yeah. No, it's we totally can. The hot topic Leeland and middle-aged business professional. No, so yeah, man. So me and my wife, we just celebrated 12 years of marriage, which is pretty awesome. We got married really young. We were like 19 and 18 when we got married,
You have us beat by a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started dating, or actually I wasn't allowed to date till I was 18. So we fell in love and really liked each other when we were like 15. Pretty early on, Mom was like, well, if she likes you, she'll stick around. You guys can wait it out. So we did the whole group setting thing where you like, I'm going to go hang with my friends. So you're trying to look up any excuse to be around each other. We were pretty much in church all the time together for those 3 years, but we just became really good friends. They got married 19 and 18, celebrated 12 years. And the first 6-7 years of our marriage, we were just like traveling, and it was doing a lot of traveling on the road. So she was with me. We were just having fun, just enjoying being young and married and being on the road, sightseeing. And then we started like thinking, man, we really want to have kids. We want to grow our family. So we started that whole process, and 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, and then we're realizing there's probably something wrong. And so we go to the doctor, and we were basically going to start doing the whole IVF thing. And we were getting ready to go that route, and we were like a couple of days away from starting the whole thing. At this point, we moved back to Baytown. And so we're in Baytown, and we were going to try to raise some financial support for it. So we get ready to do that, and we both just felt like sick at our stomach. Like it was just really weird. It just didn't feel right. And we have friends who did this and have beautiful kids. And so we look at each other, and she was like, I don't know about this. And I was like, yeah, I think I agree. Like, I don't know if I want to do this either. And so she said, let's just pray for like 3 more days. Let's like fast and pray and ask God, do we do this? Do we continue to wait? Or do we pursue adoption? So I go to Dallas, and I was playing with the band that weekend, and my wife was back home. But we're both praying. We're both like fasting and praying about this because we just want to be parents, Yeah. And so I'm in this church I've never been to before in my life. This pastor, and I just met him for the first time that day. Amazing guy who played his church, and it was an incredible night. He asked me to his office, and he said, I've got a prophetic word for you. That's either going to be awesome or it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
Or weird.
You go in like, is this going to be weird
or this is going to be God? It's one of the two. Nowhere in between. So I sit down, and he says, have you and your wife been trying to have kids for a long time? And I was like, oh man. I was like, yeah. And I said, hold on. I grabbed my phone and turned on the voice recorder. I was like, go for it. It just the presence of God filled the room. It was so real. He said, have you guys ever thought about adoption before? We're like, and he said, I actually see you guys, God's a plan for each family. And I feel like part of God's purpose and destiny for your family, adoption is going to be a big part of it. And it's just going to be a unique part of y'all's story. And he said, I even see you guys adopting a non-white child and a child of color. And he said, it's going to be a miracle how all this happens. And dude, it was the wildest experience, but so real. The love of God just gripped me right there at that moment. I sent the message to my wife, and we were both weeping on the phone, and it gave us the courage to move forward with the adoption process. And we'd been talking about it already, but we just weren't sure. So it kind of gave us the courage to jump off the cliff and build wings on the way down. And that's kind of what happened, man. And God just carried us the whole step of the way. My wife is superwoman and did all the paperwork, and I was still traveling a lot. And so she just nailed it. She did awesome. God's led us through the process. We got connected with our baby girl's biological mother and an adoption agency. And that's how that happened, man. And so
cool.
Our baby girl Journey was born on August 23rd. And that was a couple of years ago. So she's about to be 2 years, and
wow.
She's amazing. Her name is Journey, and she is beautiful. Actually, I'm at my parents' house. That's a picture of her right there. You kind of can't see her, but
so
she's amazing. She's amazing. But yeah, but it's amazing, man. We're loving it. Definitely want to grow our family, and we're already talking about trying to grow it right now. So she's changed our life for sure. It's awesome being a dad. It's so much fun.
Oh, it is so crazy, but so much
yes,
fun.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Dude, the one thing that nobody prepared me for being a parent, this is the one thing that I wish somebody would have said to me. Nobody told me the reality when your child is awake, you basically are a CCTV camera that has to be on at all points, because if you remove your eyes off of them for 0.3 seconds, they are doing something that can endanger their life.
Pretty much.
So nobody told me that's one thing you have. That's a reality you deal with, no matter how good your child is or how docile or not crazy they are. They're babies. They're just so you're in this state of surveillance all day, and so you can't do any activity uninterrupted. Using the bathroom or sitting on the toilet, like nothing is sacred or uninterrupted. Like
you're watching YouTube videos on your phone, you have like one eye on the phone and one eye.
Yeah, dude.
Oh man,
it's crazy.
It's crazy to hear how many people kind of walk through that same journey of having the issues and all that kind of stuff, because that's a lot of our story as well.
Wow.
And with our first one, it was kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, we had a 3-year plan. See if we like each other for 3 years. Actually, that's terrible, but yes. No, we just wanted to spend the time with each other for 3 years, just kind of let that set in, get that established. And then we're like, okay, let's go. And it probably took us a couple of years. We had the appointment with the clinic, and as that was approaching, we had to call and cancel and say, hey, I think we figured it out. That's when we found out. I think it was like either the day before, or, maybe that week. I do the Hollywood version, say it was that same day of the appointment.
Wow.
Like we figured it out. But that's been a lot of our journey, and miscarriages and that's what our 5-month-old was, a surprise baby. Talked about it quite a bit on the podcast. That we thought that chapter was done. Like we just kind of put that out of our minds, and then all of a sudden something wasn't quite right, and here we go. We had to figure out this whole kid thing all over again.
Come on, man. That's awesome.
The 9-year-old is an amazing big sister. Big sister. So that's a huge, huge help. I love that
precious.
Girl.
Precious.
So,
the daddy-daughter thing is so real, dude, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
It is just, they know they have you wrapped.
Oh, 100%.
They know they do. They even at Journey's not even 2, and she just knows. Girls are so emotionally intuitive too. They're so much more emotionally mature than boys are. Like they're already thinking 6 levels deeper. Like they're so sweet. Oh, it's amazing.
So are you the kind of dad who, when a friend or somebody announces that they have a girl, you kind of get all gushy, all excited, dude, you get to have a girl?
I know, dude. I'm that dad all the way. And it's it's getting to a point where she knows that she can work me over. Like she knows she can't get away with a lot with mom, but she can get away with a lot with me. So I'm in for a wild ride for sure.
Yeah. I have 2 girls, so I know I'm pooched for years to come.
That's awesome, dude.
Both the younger one's starting to turn out to be a daddy's girl too. So It's
Yeesh.
it's bad.
Some girl competition there. Yeah, that's awesome.
The worst part about that too is like I'm the only guy in this household. Like I am the only
Oh,
male
wow.
presence. No dog.
Yes.
Well, the dogs are all
Yeah.
both girls. Like it's bad. It's bad. I've forfeited my man card a long time ago. It's just it's
That's
done
awesome
for.
though. Hey, you need to write a book, bro. You need to write a book. Just a little short handbook for the average dude. Like I feel like you have be able to drop a lot of golden nuggets there.
Oh man,
That's awesome.
it'd be a short book because what I know about raising girls.
Yeah.
Tiny
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. It's a tiny book because there's just a few things that you need to never say and you'll be fine.
Even then, who knows? But
Yeah.
we'll have to title the book "Best Guesses." That's about
Yes.
what it is. How does this work? Here's my best guess.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That's awesome, man.
so I guess I'll ask. Is the next one in the works? So should we?
Yeah. So we're praying through this process right now, and just keep us in your prayers right now. We have friends that have adopted 3, 4 children. Every story is completely different. Every situation is totally different than the next. We have friends right now that are talking about adopting as well, that are interested in that journey, and they're asking us questions, and we're like, here's what you can maybe expect, but like every situation is so different. And so I'll tell you what though, I have been so encouraged. It seems like just in the last few years, and maybe it's just because of us just being aware to it is probably what it is. But I've been in a lot of conversations with a lot of families that are interested in it, and it's like God's moving on their heart in that direction, and I get really encouraged by that. There are so many kids, and even in the foster system, that after a certain age, it's really tough for them to get adopted, and I'm excited to see the body of Christ step in and really be the answer to this situation of children that need families. And heard a story. It was actually maybe it was in David Platt's book that he wrote, and he was talking about the area of where their church was. That for a specific season, their church caught the bug,
Wow.
for lack of better words, of fostering. Their church alone, single handedly, like pretty much took care of almost every foster child in their county and in their area. And so that's really awesome to when I hear stories like that. I'm like, that's tangible, that's real, like that's something that God can do. Only God can do, but it's possible. So I'm excited to see more of that happen. It was pretty cool when our baby girl, when the adoption was finalized, we got the letter in the mail from the court, and what was so cool about it is that letter in the mail, basically, for lack of better words, says Journey Ship Mooring is forever your child. Like through adoption, it's legally impossible to you cannot separate yourself from that child ever. That child is forever yours. And so I think this is so special about that. Like she's forever ours, and it reminds me of
cool.
the gospel and what Jesus did for me, and it's amazing, man. It's awesome. So good.
Oh man,
So good.
And what an image to see that on paper. I didn't realize that's what they did it. That's
Yeah.
how they did that.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like apparently with biological children, if there are some parents out there that don't want to be their parent anymore, and they will write something in. They can get the court to file stuff, and it's terrible if that is even a thing, but that's possible. But with adopted children, it's isn't even legally possible, which is really cool.
Yeah,
because it gets me thinking about the gospel, and it's awesome. So cool.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing that journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can see pictures as that comes through. I mean,
yeah.
As any gushing parent does.
Yes. Oh no, we're going to keep everyone informed on as much as we can on the stuff we can share, and as soon as we can, And so right now it's just it's a prayer phase. So just keep us in your prayers, and we're always excited about growing our family. But our baby girl journey. If you go to my wife's Instagram, you'll see plenty of pictures of her. She's pretty much all over my Instagram now. She's just the prettiest a baby in the world. It's like my life was not interesting before you came along. So she's awesome.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, so I had to buy my wife a new phone because she ran out of storage space on her old phone because
Yeah.
like I had to go out and buy her. I think we got her the 256 gigger because
Yes.
she had so many pictures of the kids and stuff. Yeah.
I love the Jim Gaffigan joke. When you get done with your phone, or your laptop, it's just because all the pictures are full. Like you never put them on a hard drive or like put them in a cloud. You're just like, I'll just get a new laptop.
Oh man.
So good.
So well, we appreciate you hanging out with us here for a while, man. What a good time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jake. This has been awesome. Really enjoyed getting to chat. Thank you for what you're doing, man. So good. It's providing good space for conversation. So it's awesome.